Mystical Universe of Cosmic Jester.
Quite a name, right?
Quite a name and even more interesting music.
Yeah, we got a listener question about this one. Really want us to unpack what this artist is all about. What's the message?
Yeah, what's the deal with Cosmic Jester, right? Are we
Right.
talking hidden meanings or just pure chaos?
Well, to get to the bottom of that, we're going to have to look at the source material, and that means digging into the lyrics from his entire catalog over on his YouTube channel, LLS Studio.
Okay, so this isn't just like a greatest hits kind of thing. We're talking full deep dive.
Absolutely. Every song we could find, from love songs to, well, let's just say things get a little dark and maybe a little weird.
Oh, I love weird. And I mean, you had me at song titles like Bell's Office and Poker with the Devil. I mean, come on. This is going to be good.
It's going to be interesting, that's for sure. So where should we start?
Well, I think a good place to start is with trying to figure out what this guy actually believes, right? Like, what's his worldview?
Right, like what's the philosophy behind the music?
Exactly. So let's look at a couple of tracks that might give us some clues. I Am Abaddon and I Am the Godhead.
Interesting choices. Now, I Am Abaddon is, well, it's pretty bleak. Let's just say it doesn't paint the rosiest picture of humanity. Lots of talk about the void and meaninglessness. Kind of that nihilistic vibe.
Yeah, it's dark. But then you've got I Am the Godhead, which seems to take the opposite approach. This one's all about power and self-importance, almost like a god complex.
Yeah, you get this strange mix of, like, I am nothing and I am everything in these two songs.
So is that a contradiction, or are those two sides of the same coin?
Well, that's what we're here to figure out, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, there's another song, The Ouroboros, that I think we need to talk about.
Yeah, the serpent eating its own tail. Classic symbol of death and rebirth.
Right. So we've got nihilism, God complex, and now this idea of eternal cycles.
It's like he's exploring all these different philosophical and spiritual concepts. But is there a unifying thread?
That's the big question. What do you think listeners are? Are we seeing a coherent worldview here? Or is Cosmic Jester just throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks?
And you know what? Even if it is just throwing things at the wall, that can be an artistic statement in itself.
Absolutely. Art doesn't always have to be neat and tidy. Sometimes the mess is where the magic happens.
Right. Sometimes the beauty is in the chaos.
I like that. The beauty is in the chaos. Speaking of chaos, let's talk about Cosmic Jester's songs about relationships.
Oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, because these are all over the map, too. We've got everything from heartbreak to dark humor to just plain weirdness.
Distance is a good example of the heartbreak side of things. It's got this really melancholic vibe, a sense of fading love and longing.
Yeah, it's definitely a tearjerker.
Yeah.
But then you've got a song like A Cat Named Jack, which takes a completely different approach to relationships.
More like a claw to the face, am I right?
Yeah, this one's got some dark humor in it. Definitely not for the faint of heart. It's about this love-hate relationship with a cat, which I think a lot of pet owners can relate to.
Oh, absolutely. Who hasn't wanted to punt their cat across the room at least once?
Right. But in Cosmic Jester's hands, this everyday annoyance becomes something much darker and more twisted.
It's like he takes these relatable experiences and then pushes them to their extremes.
Yeah, he's definitely not afraid to go there.
Yeah.
And then we've got songs like Love is a Gun and I'll See You Tomorrow, which explore the kind of bittersweet nature of love.
Yeah, love as a gun is such a powerful metaphor. It captures that feeling of how love can be both exhilarating and dangerous, how it can lift you up and tear you down.
But it's like playing with fire. You know,
Okay.
it could burn you, but you can't resist the heat.
Exactly. And then I'll See You Tomorrow is interesting because it takes us through this whole arc of a relationship, from the initial excitement to the inevitable heartbreak, and then ultimately to this sense of acceptance and enduring love.
Yeah, it's like he's saying that even though love can be painful, it's still worth it. Because even in the face of loss, the connection, that love remains.
It's a beautiful and heartbreaking message.
It really is. So we've got these kind of big philosophical questions about life and death and meaning, and then these really raw and emotional explorations of love and relationships.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Remember, we still haven't even touched on his songs about society and the supernatural.
Oh yeah, we've got a lot more ground to cover. So buckle up, listener. It's going to be a wild ride. All right, so we've talked about the big existential stuff, and we've dipped our toes into the messy world of relationships. But Cosmic Jester doesn't stop there.
Oh no, he doesn't. This is where we start getting into some social commentary.
Yeah, he's definitely got some opinions, and he's not afraid to share them.
Not afraid at all. Sometimes I wonder if he's trying to be controversial on purpose.
Maybe. But you know what? Even if he is, it's making us think and talk about these issues, so maybe that's part of the point.
Good point. So let's look at some of these songs that tackle societal issues.
Okay, so The man is one that jumps out right away.
Yeah, that one seems to be pretty direct commentary on systemic racism and power structures.
Yeah, it's not subtle. He's calling out injustice and oppression straight up.
Yeah, no punches pulled there. But then you've got a song like I'm a Bigot, which takes a completely different approach.
Yeah, that one is, well, it's definitely provocative.
Hmm.
Let's just say it uses some language that
Yeah.
might make some people uncomfortable.
It's definitely pushing boundaries. Now, is he being satirical? Is he trying to expose the absurdity of prejudice? Or is he just being offensive for the sake of it?
Honestly, it's hard to tell. But that's what makes it so interesting, right? It forces you to confront these uncomfortable ideas and figure out where you stand.
And I think it's important to remember, listener, that we're not here to endorse any particular viewpoint. We're just trying to unpack what Cosmic Jester is presenting in his music and to maybe spark some conversation.
Exactly. We're all about exploring different perspectives, even the ones that make us squirm a little bit.
That's where the growth happens, right? When you're challenged to think outside your comfort zone.
Absolutely. So we've got the man calling out injustice, and then I'm a bigot, using shock value to make a point. But it doesn't stop there. He's got other songs that explore these social issues from different angles.
I'm a feminist, and In That Suit come to mind.
Yeah, those ones really delve into gender roles and expectations.
And they challenge us to question those roles and to think about how they impact our lives and our relationships.
It's like he's saying, hey, let's not just accept these things blindly. Let's examine them and see if they still make sense.
And I think that's a valuable message, whether you agree with his specific viewpoints or not.
Absolutely. It's all about critical thinking and questioning the status quo.
Right. So we've got these songs that tackle some pretty heavy societal issues, but then he throws us a curveball.
Oh, yeah, because Cosmic Jester doesn't shy away from the supernatural either.
Not at all. In fact, he seems to be drawn to the darker side of things.
Yeah, we're talking demons, devils, succubi, the whole 9 yards.
And he doesn't just mention them in passing. These are full-blown songs dedicated to exploring these mythological figures and the ideas they represent.
Like Poker with the Devil, for example. What's
Yeah.
going on there?
Well, on the surface, it's this high-stakes card game against the ultimate evil, but I think there's a deeper meaning there.
Yeah, it's like he's using this classic image of the devil to explore our own internal struggles with temptation and morality.
Right, like we're all constantly making deals with the devil in some way, whether it's compromising our values for success or giving in to our darker impulses.
So it's not just a fun little horror story, it's a metaphor for the human condition.
Exactly. And then you've got Vacation in Hell, which, well, the title pretty much says it all.
Yeah, that one paints a vivid picture of the underworld and all its torments.
But it also makes you think about what hell really means. Is it a literal place or is it a state of mind?
Right, like maybe we create our own personal hells through our choices and actions.
Interesting thought. And then there's Succubus, which explores this mythological creature that preys on men's desires.
Yeah, that one definitely has a more sensual and seductive vibe.
But it also makes you think about power dynamics and the ways that we use and abuse each other.
Right. So even though these songs are about demons and devils, they're still relevant to our lives and the way we interact with the world.
And I think that's one of the things that makes Cosmic Jester so fascinating. He blends all these different genres and ideas together in a way that is both entertaining and thought-provoking.
It's like he's constantly challenging us to think outside the box and to see the connections between seemingly disparate things.
And that's what we're trying to do here too, to connect the dots and see if there's a bigger picture emerging from all of this.
So as we move into the final part of our deep dive, keep that in mind. We're going to be looking at some of his most controversial and challenging songs and trying to figure out how they fit into the overall puzzle.
This is where things get really interesting.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground with Cosmic Jester, from nihilism to God complexes, from heartbreak to demons. But we saved some of the most, let's just say, challenging material for last.
This is the part where some people might say, okay, now he's gone too far.
Yeah, there are a few songs here that really push the envelope and might even offend some listeners.
And that's okay. We're not here to shy away from difficult conversations.
Exactly. We're all adults here, and I think we can handle some controversial topics.
Especially when it comes to art. Art is meant to provoke, to challenge, to make us think outside our comfort zones.
Absolutely. So let's dive into some of these songs that might make you squirm a little bit.
Okay, so remember, I'm a Bigot that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, the one with all the shocking language and imagery.
Well, it gets even more intense when you really dig into the lyrics.
Mhm.
He talks about aliens and genocide and all sorts of things that are just really disturbing.
It's like he's trying to paint the most extreme and grotesque picture of bigotry imaginable. And I think that's the point. He's not trying to glorify these views. He's trying to expose them for what they are.
Mm.
Ugly, hateful, and ultimately destructive.
But it's still a risky move, right? I mean, some people might hear this song and think he's actually endorsing these beliefs. That's always a danger when you're dealing with satire or irony. It can be easily misinterpreted.
But I think if you listen to the whole song and you consider the context of his other work, it's clear that he's not condoning bigotry.
Right. He's holding up a mirror to society and forcing us to confront the ugliness that exists.
And that's something that art can do really well, make us face uncomfortable truths.
Absolutely. So, I'm a bigot is definitely a tough one to stomach, but I think it serves a purpose.
It's a conversation starter. It makes you think about the nature of prejudice and how it manifests in our world.
Okay, so moving on, we have another song that's even more disturbing in some ways.
Made me do it, right?
That's the one. This one deals with domestic violence and toxic masculinity, but it's told from the abuser's perspective.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so unsettling. You're hearing all the justifications, the blame shifting, the manipulation tactics that abusers use.
It's like he's giving voice to the darkest parts of human nature.
And it's hard to listen to, honestly. It makes you feel uncomfortable and even angry.
But I think that's the point. He's not trying to make us sympathize with the abuser. He's trying to show us how insidious and damaging abuse can be.
By putting us in the abuser's shoes, he's forcing us to confront the reality of domestic violence.
And hopefully to make us more aware of the warning signs and to encourage us to speak out against it.
So yeah, Made Me Do It is not an easy song to listen to, but it's an important one.
It shines a light on a very dark and often hidden problem.
So we've got I'm a Bigot, which tackles prejudice, and Made Me Do It, which exposes the horrors of domestic violence. And these are just two examples of the really challenging material that Cosmic Jester throws at us.
And it makes you wonder, what's his goal here? Is he just trying to shock us, or is there a deeper message?
Well, I think it's both. He definitely wants to get our attention to make us react.
But I also think he's trying to start a conversation, to get us thinking about these difficult issues, and maybe even to inspire us to do something about them.
Yeah, he's not giving us easy answers. He's just presenting us with these raw and often disturbing reflections of reality.
And it's up to us to figure out what to do with them.
To grapple with these ideas and to come to our own conclusions.
So as we wrap up our deep dives into the lyrical universe of Cosmic Jester, I think one thing is clear. This is an artist who defies categorization.
Yeah, he's not afraid to push boundaries, to challenge norms, and to make us uncomfortable.
His music is a wild, unpredictable ride through the darkest corners of human experience.
And it's not always pretty, but it's always thought-provoking.
So if you're looking for music that will make you think, that will challenge your assumptions and maybe even make you a little bit uncomfortable, then Cosmic Jester is definitely worth checking out.
But be warned, listener, you might not like everything you hear.
And that's okay. The important thing is to listen with an open mind and to let the music spark your own thoughts and ideas.
Because ultimately, that's what art is all about. To connect with us on a deep level, to make us feel, to make us think, and to make us question the world around us.
And Cosmic Jester certainly does all of that.
Absolutely. So keep diving deep, listener. Let us know what you think at